Now let's move on to third normal form. Suppose we decide to enhance the player table. We decide to add a new column called Player Skill Level. Imagine that in this particular multiplayer game, there's a 9-point scale for skill level. At one extreme, a player with skill level 1 is an absolute beginner. At the opposite extreme, a player with skill level 9 is as skillful as it's possible to be. And let's say that we've defined exactly how player skill levels relate to player ratings. Beginner means a skill level between 1 and 3, intermediate means a skill level between 4 and 6, and advanced means a skill level between 7 and 9. But now that both the player rating and the player skill level exist in the player table, a problem can arise. Let's say that tomorrow, player Gila 19's skill level increases from 3 to 4. If that happens, we'll update her row in the player table to reflect this new skill level. By rights, we should also update her player rating to intermediate, but suppose something goes wrong and we fail to update the player rating. Now we've got a data inconsistency. Gila 19's player rating says she's a beginner, but her player skill level implies she's intermediate. How did the design allow this to happen? Second normal form didn't flag up any problems. There's no attribute here that depends only partially on the primary key. As a matter of fact, the primary key doesn't have any parts. It's just a single attribute. And both player rating and player skill level are dependent on it. But in what way are they dependent on it? Let's look more closely. Player skill level is dependent on player ID. Player rating is dependent on player ID too, but only indirectly, like this. A dependency of this kind is called a transitive dependency. Player rating depends on player skill level, which in turn depends on the primary key, player ID. The problem is located just here. Because what third normal form forbids is exactly this type of dependency, the dependency of a non-key attribute on another non-key attribute. Because player rating depends on player skill level, which is a non-key attribute, this table is not in third normal form. There's a very simple way of repairing the design to get it into third normal form. We remove player rating from the player table, so now the player table looks like this. And we introduce a new table called player skill levels. The player skill levels table tells us everything we need to know about how to translate a player skill level into a player rating. Third normal form is the culmination of everything we've covered about database normalization so far. It can be summarized in this way. Every non-key attribute in a table should depend on the key, the whole key, and nothing but the key. If you commit this to memory and keep it constantly in mind while you're designing a database, then 99% of the time you will end up with fully normalized tables. It's even possible to shorten this guideline slightly by knocking out the phrase non-key, giving us the revised guideline. Every attribute in a table should depend on the key, the whole key, and nothing but the key. And this new guideline represents a slightly stronger flavor of third normal form known as Boyce-Codd normal form. In practice, the difference between third normal form and Boyce-Codd normal form is extremely small, and the chances of you ever encountering a real-life third normal form table that doesn't meet Boyce-Codd normal form are almost zero. Any such table would have to have what we call multiple overlapping candidate keys, which gets us into realms of obscurity and theoretical rigor that are a little beyond the scope of this video. So as a practical matter, just follow the guideline that every attribute in a table should depend on the key, the whole key, and nothing but the key. and you can be confident that the table will be in both third normal form and voice-cod normal form. In almost all cases, once you've normalized a table this far, you've fully normalized it. There are some instances where this level of normalization isn't enough. These rare instances are dealt with by fourth and fifth normal form. So let's move on to fourth normal form. We'll look at an example of a situation where third normal form isn't quite good enough and something a bit stronger is needed. In our example,